Yes, we are now recording. Hi, Aman. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Siddharth. Likewise. Thanks
Okay,
for inviting.
super. So, Aman, you have a kind of different journey. You were founder of a B2B software product at age 21, selling to enterprises and bootstrapped to $1 million in revenue. Then got acquired by a large company in a span of, I think, less than 5 years, right?
Right.
So, with this, I just want to go through your journey as a founder, the founding story, how you build the company, run it, and finally the acquisition piece. So, can you just walk us through your founding story? How did you identify as a student, while in the last year of college? How did you identify the market you wanted to be in, especially because it's a difficult space in financial services, selling to banks who are difficult buyers?
Right. So, Siddharth, we didn't originally start with a B2B idea. So, I'll take a step back how I got into entrepreneurship in the first place and then about this specific idea. So, like any other typical techie from computer science background, I also was into the fact that I want to get into a hotshot tech job in the US and settle there, get an H1B visa, and so on and so forth. Uh, Fortunately, I got a chance to do a 3 months long internship in the summers of 2016. Right, that was right after my third year of college, where I was interning in the technical team of a startup called Rubrik. So they were the darling of Silicon Valley at that time, growing very fast, hundreds of millions of dollars in valuation at that time. And I was working with some of the smartest set of people. Uh, the work was good, everything was fantastic. But what I realized was, in fact, a couple of things I realized. Number one, I cannot stay away from my family and parents in the US. That is one. Number two is that I did not get that motivation to wake up every morning where I knew that if I go to the office 1 hour late, nothing will change, nothing will be impacted, right? So that was not exciting for me. I felt my life has become a little monotonous. Having said that, as I said, for a software engineer, it's a great company to work for. So, right during the internship, I started talking to a couple of friends that what options do I have after this internship? Because I clearly don't want to stay in the US and do a tech job, go to Google, go to Microsoft, go to Apple. So a couple of friends I was talking to, and a friend told me about the entrepreneurship department at IIT Bombay. So
Hmm.
the problem with us techies is that we are so focused on computer science, we don't know that what other things are happening in the institute. Right?
Right.
So entrepreneurship department was there since a couple of years, but I had zero idea about it. So I wrote to the professor, and because my internship was ending a little late, I was missing the first few classes. But I begged them to allow me to register for the course, and they kindly agreed. So I joined in the very first course of Introduction to Entrepreneurship, and there was a friend of mine who was my co-founder in the course, right?
Hmm.
So we were supposed to team up. So these courses are taught by professors who are themselves industry veterans. They are not
Okay.
academicians. They
Okay.
are themselves entrepreneurs. They have built multi-billion-dollar companies, right? Mr. Raj Jaswa, he co-founded two companies who are listed in the US stock exchanges. He's, I think, some 1975 batch alum. Mr. Bharat Desai, right? Mr. Devdeep, who was the president of CHEP India. So proper, I would say, industry veterans are taking these courses. So they don't care about exams, assignments, quizzes. Their thought is simple. You want to get into entrepreneurship, build a company, build a product, take this as an opportunity to learn and experiment. And we are here to mentor you in your journey.
Right.
So I found that quite exciting. And I mean, these courses, so fourth year I had completely free. Rubrik gave me a pre-placement offer, so I didn't have to worry about that. I didn't have to go to for masters and all because, as I said, I didn't want to go to US, stay there for long. Undergrad project in IIT Bombay is also optional, which means, and my courses were almost complete. So I had a few
Hmm.
electives to be taken. Again, computer science is so flexible that even department elective courses, which are to be taken, you can take any department's course and tag them as computer science. They are okay with that. So that's the kind of flexibility the college offered. So I spent the entire fourth year, which is seventh and eighth semester, in trying to do a startup of my own. So the initial idea with the problem statement, which we were supposed to, so we were told that you find a problem statement and work on it, right? So one problem statement that I thought was that today, in spite of Ola, Uber, Swiggy, Zomato, Amazon, and all, there are apps, but still my parents call me for booking a cab. They can't use that app. They have a smartphone, they have internet connection, but they can't use these apps. They typically get stuck in payment gateway or some wrong location in Google Maps, and they are very scared that something wrong will happen, someone will hack their mobile.
Yeah.
So we wanted to build a voice-based solution where you can call a number and then talk to a voice bot like mechanism, something like an automation of just dial. You
Hmm.
call and say, look, I'm standing here in whatever, Glencroft in Hiranandani Gardens in Powai, and I want to go to IIT campus, book me a cab by just dialing a number. And a voice bot will understand your command and your cab will be there. So that's how the company started, which was originally registered as All in Call Research and Solutions Private Limited. So when we spoke to some of the professors, so as a part of the presentation, right, what customer validation we did, what is our problem statement, what product are we building, when we presented that, the feedback that we got from all the professors was that, look, this is a B2C idea, you will bleed a lot of money in customer acquisition. Why don't you take it to enterprises who already have acquired customers and give them your technology, license it? That's when our B2B journey began. So a few of our professors, they had connects in some of these banks, financial institutions, and so they took us there. So one professor connected us with someone from Yes Bank, someone from HDFC Bank, someone from Axis Bank, mid to senior level people. Uh, we obviously got a lot of negative responses, given that we were young. In one of the presentations, literally the last slide was next steps, graduate from college, and we were thrown out of the room. So now that bank is also a customer, although after 5 years, after 4 years. So that's how our journey began in the banking and financial services space. And I mean, in course of the last, I mean, after the early validation of our product with these banks, where we said, we'll give you a voice bot solution, they told us that, look, voice bot is very difficult. And we found some technology barriers also. The sampling rate when you speak through a smartphone is 16,000 samples per second. And the moment it goes in telephony line, it is down sampled to 8,000 samples a second. So because of that down sampling, the voice quality degrades, and so speech recognition becomes very difficult on an IVR. Some of these problems are solved now by big tech giants. Google has built some speech recognition in Indian 8,000 samples in Indian language, 8,000 samples per second. But in 2017, that was not the case. So we pivoted towards chatbot solution. So chat for large enterprises in financial services. And State Bank of India, which was our first customer, uh, we launched the solution with them in, I think, in July 2017. And then they floated our name to their subsidiaries, SBI Life
Hmm.
Insurance, SBI Mutual Fund. And subsequently, I mean, we got some initial traction. So that's how we landed up on our problem statement.
Wow. So I was just like to pick a bit on the last part, right? Landing State Bank as a customer.
Right,
It's not only a large bank; it's a PSU,
right.
right? Uh, we understand that selling to a bank is a very arduous, tedious process. Takes about a year to do so, and
Right.
you were 21-year-old, 22-year-old. So how intimidating was that, and how did you've mentioned this, in your earlier interviews that your alumni network kind of helped
Yes.
you with a lot of introductions and opening a lot of gates. But that's just introduction, right? That doesn't help you close the finish line.
Correct.
So how intimidating was it for you as early founders, 20, 21-year-old, recently graduated, to sell to a bunch of people who are in their 40s and 50s in large companies, very, very large companies?
So, yeah, I mean, State Bank is an interesting story actually. So, we got incubated at Sign, which is the IIT Bombay Startup Incubator, right? The courses are meant to be at a pre-incubation stage when you are an engineer trying to still figure out whether you want to get into entrepreneurship or not. Incubation is when you have incorporated a company, or at least in the plans of incorporating a company, right? So Sign, which is the IT Bomb incubator, has an MOU with State Bank of India, wherein some of the startups of Sign, which are interesting for SBI, can meet State Bank of India, and they will consider give them a fair chance to at least evaluate their technology, evaluate their product. So that's how we met the DGM of State Bank of India, DGM of Innovations Department. Uh, the first meeting went quite well. They were quite impressed. We had taken our professor with them, Professor Devdeep at that time, because we were young and we didn't know how to
Yes.
present ourselves, wear a tie, coat, suit, and blah blah blah, right? But overall, the meeting went well. They understood. They had some requirement of that sort. Uh, but so what happened was they told me, fine, this looks interesting. We have a portal. Why don't you apply on that? Uh, on for applying on that portal, they required company details, and we were two young people, no company. So we asked them what to do. So they said, go and incorporate a company. We can't work with individuals and freelancers. You have to have a company. So my cousin is a CA. We got the company incorporated. It took about a month at that time. Now it is much better because of all the Startup India initiatives. At that time, it took a month. On 21st April, we got incorporated. We were still in the final year of college, right? The eighth semester and typically ends in the end of April or early in the month of May. So when we went back to SBI, they had forgotten us completely. So I mean that happens in a PSU, but we figured out that look, if other banks have not given us that much of interest, SBI is our best bet. At least they were interested in what we are doing. So let's chase them aggressively. So the junior person, we became friends with him. His name was Sandeep. So we became friends with Sandeep, and Sandeep used to give us the gate pass every morning. So we used to sit outside DGM office like very, you call the Besharam ki tarah. We used to sit here. Someday he will feel guilty and give us some business. After a while, he realized that these guys are not going anywhere. He called us and he said, "Ki look, on 1st of July we have our bank's foundation day, and we want you to launch a chatbot product on our website to showcase to our customers." So Arundhati ma'am, who was very startup friendly, the chairman of SBI, Miss Arundhati Bhattacharya, it was her last year also, and she was very startup friendly, very technology friendly. So also we were at the right place at the right time, because one of their other partners with whom they were talking to had denied such a short timeline of 1st July, because we are sitting in the month of May, something to be launched by June and to be shown in July. 2 months for State Bank of India is crazy. Typically these projects have 6 months to 1 year cycles. And we were also at the right place because SBI had turned down 3 of IIT Bombay startups earlier. So the DGM told, look, my relationship with Sign will go bad if I turn you guys down again. I have to give you some business anyhow. So we were lucky in that sense, very lucky in that sense. Uh, so they asked us to build a proof of concept of a personal loan use case, some basic chatbot with FAQs. We quickly showed it to them. They showed it to their CIO and executive directors. They liked our solution and they said, go ahead and do a full scale implementation. And the full scale implementation was like a nightmare for us because we had to figure out everything. Uh, so there was a different team looking at the product features, a different team looking at the security of the product, a different team looking at the architecture of the product, a different team looking at commercials, and a different team looking at purchase orders. To make matters worse, my co-founder's grandmother had expired, so he had to travel to Ahmedabad. So from Powai to Belapur, which is roughly 35 kilometers, every day via local, I used to travel from the campus, and we had to leave early at 7 or 7:30, because in SBI, if you reach at 9:30 in their Belapur office earlier, the gate pass process is manual, so it's like a 1 hour time wasted in standing in the line. So we used to reach early at around 9:30, and for that we left at 7:30. And so we started deploying the solution for them, and in their security audit they gave like 4,500 observations. So my co-founder was both of us were technical, but he was a better technical person than me, so he took a look at all of that. I was looking at all the commercials. So commercial negotiation, they stretched us like crazy, so we had charged them per FAQ. And then so negotiation happened with someone who had done, I think I was told, 4,000 crores of negotiation in total for SBI, and single negotiations worth of 500 crores. So him and a team of 6 other DGMs. So he was a GM, and there were 6 other DGMs who were negotiating with 2 young kids. Our combined age was lesser than his experience. So he grilled us left, right, and center. He didn't negotiate us down on the price. He negotiated us on the scope. So he said, "Where have you written that this is only in English language? This means all languages are included." We are like, "No, no, no." He said, "Go back and build the proposal and come back tomorrow again." Next day again, one meeting. So next day he's like, "Where is the definition of FAQ written? Is my whole website an FAQ?" We're like, "No, FAQ is one question. Go back and come again tomorrow." So it went on for a long time. They stretched us quite a lot, but fortunately, uh, they had a tight timeline. So somewhere they had to put a full stop. We went live towards the end of June, and typically before going live, you get a purchase order before even starting the work. We got a purchase order after going live. So that's how. I mean, we were very accommodative in that sense. And unfortunately, on 1st of July, GST had come, 2017. We got purchase order on 2nd or 3rd of July, and that was supposed to be GST compliant invoice. So our payments were also a lot delayed. It happened in August end because they were also they were moving from non-GST software to GST software. So it was one hell of a challenge, but we launched for SBI on 2nd July. They did a Foundation Day celebration in their technology office. 1st July, it's like bank level, and 2nd July, technology level. And they felicitated us in front of 1,200 employees, their CIO, CTO, and all the CGMs in technology department. So that was a great launchpad for us. SBI has been very supportive in that sense. And you mentioned that they are a public sector bank, so they have procurement guidelines via tender process. But under the Startup India program, SBI has been instructed to procure up to 3 crores of technology product without a tender, basis their board approval. So that's where I think government is taking some good initiative, and that's where we got lucky.
Okay. So again, coming back to you kind of building the product from scratch
Yes.
in a 1 2 month period with a large corporate at a bank where you were grilled on every single piece, right? That was kind of your foundation, your setting stone for selling to other companies. So what was the and I'm assuming you would have been a very small team at that point in time
Two
as well.
people, me and my co-founder, no one else.
Exactly. So then, what is the story of the customer 2 3 4 5 in the next year or so?
Sure. So SBI introduced us to their group companies. So the DGM was very supportive. After delivering such a good product for us, he also looked at us like good people, right? People with
Hmm.
a positive mind. Because in India, typically all the vendors, they just want money. They don't want to help you. We didn't care about money. We wanted SBI logo. Obviously, money was an important factor, but we were very committed to making sure our first customer is super happy. So he saw that commitment. So what he did was, which we did not realize the value at that time, but he did was he built the contract in the name of State Bank Group. He standardized our pricing and rate card and mentioned in the contract that this is applicable for the State Bank Group. So this is one. Bank can take such decisions.
Hmm.
Number two, he floated an email to all the group company digital heads saying, "Ki, look, we have procured this product from this startup. They are very good. And why don't you also, if you are procuring such a product, please consider talking to them." So SBI Life immediately called us. They were in the last stage of completing their RFP, and some of the big giants were participating in the RFP, and the RFP got completely scraped off. They onboarded us. They did our diligence for us in about 15 days of time. But
Wow.
the biggest confidence that they had was because of SBI reference.
Hmm.
Getting a reference of state. See, banks are more regulated than insurance companies or mutual funds or stockbroking companies. So that's where we got our second client, SBI Life. It was a small contract, roughly one-tenth the size of SBI. And we launched with them, I think, in mid of November the same year. So I think July we went live with SBI. Somewhere around August or September, SBI Life reached out to us. September end they did diligence. In October, November we did the work for them and went live. Uh, SBI Mutual Fund started talking to us, although SBI Mutual Fund happened after a year, but they started talking to us. Uh, then there is another interesting story with ICICI Bank. So one of my mentors was ex-CEO of ICICI Home Finance. So he's the head of entrepreneurship department at IIT Bombay, Professor Anand Kusre. So we went to him and told him about SBI Life story. And he's like, so we asked him, do you have connects in other insurance companies? He's like, yeah, I can connect you. So he pulled out a bundle of his cards, like some probably 2,000 visiting cards. So he's 62 years old, 65 years old. So 2,000 cards bundle he picked out and pulled some number and called and said, ki, Sandeep, ye hamare students hain. These are our students and they want to meet you. They have just implemented their product at SBI Life. Why don't you meet them? So we were like, "ठीक must be some junior person at." So he called ICICI Prudential Life actually. So we were like, "ठीक some junior person would be there," and he told, "Go and search his name. His name is Sandeep Bakshi." We went and did a Google search. He was the CEO, President, MD, and CEO of ICICI Prudential Life Insurance, and Sandeep sir is now the Group CEO, ICICI Group CEO. So that was very interesting. That having that connects helps you meet the CEO directly. Of which I mean, I'm sure people will die for a meeting with Sandeep sir. And
Yeah.
Sandeep sir was kind enough to give us a meeting at SBI Live. He said, "Ki, look, Professor Kusre's reference matters a lot to me. He was my sort of ex-reporting manager and ex-boss. So any help you need, we are open for you." At that time, we didn't know what help to do for them. So we could not do much for ICICI Prudential Life. But Kusre sir also introduced us to the Chief Technology Officer of ICICI Bank, Mr. Madhivanan Balakrishnan. So, and I mean, we were so lucky to have his support that, I mean, with Madhi sir, if you want to get a meeting, it will take 2 months of time, 1 month of time. He called and said, "Give me a time on the call. These guys want your time right away." So Adi sir gave us the meeting for the next week itself. So that was the support we got for with ICICI Bank. Obviously, I mean, you meet the CXO, they will see and they will give you something, a small contract or something, but they have to keep the word of the other person. Something non-critical, obviously. So same way in ICICI, we got a small project which was not very critical. It was one of the most difficult projects of our life. That's another story. But yes, we got business with ICICI Bank, and later on that project became a success story, and we got a ton of business within ICICI Bank. And ICICI Bank till date is our largest customer.
So think about it, right? Your, again, the general notion is people really love to throw dirt on, brand name colleges, right?
Right.
But this is a true example of what, being an IIT Bombay student, being incubated, opened a lot of doors for you.
Right.
You even mentioned that uh, your acquisition was kind of kick-started while you
Right.
were in touch with the founders of Exotel. The
Right.
acquisition kind of kick-started because you attended one of the alumni meetings.
Yes.
That's alumni network is number one, and two is you had a real customer champion, right?
Right.
Internal champion at a company within the state bank, and
Right.
then you had an external champion who could kind of open all of these doors for you. So how now, in hindsight, how does this shape up a very young company thrown open to these companies who are huge, enormous, right? Again, because you are in a very regulated, tight-knit companies, sorry, environment with long sales cycles, you have to go through compliance, technology, legal, so on and so forth. How does this setting up a process at the core, the base level, from introduction to tenders or RFPs and then execution, uh, make your sales for the next, 1 to 10 is okay, introductions, open doors, but after 10 you're kind of supposed to be on your own in
Right.
some way or the other, right? So how does this kind of feature into your story, and building a team, hiring more salespeople, because then it might not have been founded at sales after a point in time.
Right.
So just kind of want to understand that piece as well.
So see, this is something we could not figure out in our early days, and it led to my co-founder leaving the company in August 2018. So we started in April 2017. 1 year and 4 months, August 2018, my co-founder leaves abruptly, purely because of long sales cycle, lack of a proper product, human-centric execution,
Mm-hmm.
right? Interacting with a lot of people, longer deployment cycle, dealing with multiple stakeholders, business, IT, infosec, legal, compliance, finance, procurement, right? So because of all of this, exactly, my co-founder left the company. Once he left, I got Harshita on board, who is my current co-founder. Uh, a little patient person is what I would say, because in enterprise sales you need a lot of
Oh, yeah.
patience. You need a lot of you need to understand. I mean, there are customers. So in the four banks I named, HDFC Bank, Yes Bank, Axis Bank, and SBI, with whom we met 5 years back. Axis Bank is now our customer. HDFC and Yes Bank are till date not our customers. We've been chasing them since the last 5 years. There is no one in Yes Bank who we haven't spammed yet, right? But still, they are not our customer. Hopefully, they will be very soon. So now the challenge was that my co-founder was not that patient, and so he left. Once Harshita and I started executing, we both came from relatively middle class families, so we saw this as a relatively big opportunity. If you come from 100 rupees family and you see 1,000 rupees opportunity, it's 10x. For someone who comes from, let's say, a 10,000 rupee family, it's like 1/10. So for us, it was a relatively good opportunity, and we figured out that first we need to stop all the distractions and nail down on this specific product which is working. So when you enter these banks and when you are an empaneled partner, they ask for a lot of custom solutions also, right? The services model. So we figured out that we had taken up some such projects to build relationship with these customers, but then we figured out that to scale, to at least grow to a certain extent, this will not work. It will take too much of mental bandwidth. Let's build a product. Let's figure out the chatbot solution was working. There were 3 4 customers who were paying for it, so let's just double down on that. So we started rebuilding the whole product from scratch, as per customer feedback, as per feedback from some people from ICICI Bank, to be very specific. They helped a lot. But one thing which we bifurcated was, I will do all the business side, which is selling. Harshita will take care of project delivery and product development. So I was on the field every day meeting customers, and we had relatively good relations with these banks. ICICI started to take off well. And because we had all these compliance, infosec, and so clearance, they introduced us to their group companies as well. ICICI Securities, they onboarded us. ICICI Prudential Mutual Fund started talking to us, right? So some of the doors were opened up. That's how our early business development happened. So we were able to cross the boundary between getting burning out and a scalable sales process. The boundary essentially was to expand within these companies. So we
Hmm.
did two expansions. Number one, expand to other subsidiaries. Let's say ICICI Bank, say we went to ICICI Securities. Number two, within ICICI Bank, expand to other teams. So customer support team, HR team, recruitment team, NRI banking team, corporate banking, government banking, retail banking, privilege banking. There are 160 business teams within a large commercial bank like ICICI. So there is a huge scope of expansion just within the bank, within the same entity. And all we did was we went to them and said, look, boss, I have all these business IT in all these clearances ready. Because see, IT for new project for the same product, IT will not evaluate it further. They have given a sign off, or you have that sign off email which you can share. Same for information security. Same for agreement, which is service level agreement. Same for pricing. Your pricing is standardized. You can't have differential pricing within the bank. And we replicated it within the bank as well as to subsidiaries. So that gave them a lot of confidence, and the execution happened much faster because the 6 month cycle became 1 month
Hmm.
because of the evaluation process not being required. Plus, we had internal references, right? The first customer, the first team who worked with us, they were a reference. We used to tell them, why don't you call this person and take our feedback? So that's how our, I would say, 10, 15 customers got acquired, logos. So initial few customers were all State Bank Group, ICICI Group, Kotak Group. When I say group, I mean all subsidiaries, bank, mutual fund, life insurance, general insurance, stock broking, NBFC, and even ICICI Foundation is our customer, which is the CSR, corporate social responsibility arm. Uh, Now when you have 10, 15 big logos, all the lucrative logos, investors started reaching out to us, other customers, a few of them started reaching out to us. We started conveying our story on social media. We started doing outbound prospecting. When we used to reach out to, let's say, one thing we figured out was that IIT alumni network will help get the first meeting. So when we reached out to, let's say, some of the banks where CIO was IIT Bombay alumni, we had a backing to say that, look, I have these logos already. So
Hmm.
that helped us acquire unaffiliated customers in a much faster manner. The little affiliation we had was in two parts. Number one, IIT alumni, IIT Bombay or any other IIT. Number two, the logos that they
Yes.
knew, we had them as our customers. So that helped start initial motion. It was not a cold reach out. And now today, obviously, we have 100 plus enterprise logos in financial services, the backing and support of Exotel. So it is much easier for us. I don't do business development actively. There is a team who reaches out. The conversion rates are lower than me reaching out to an alumni, but then it is more scalable that the team does it as compared to I do it.
So, in the I'm assuming in the early 1 2 years, you've had at least two large groups packing, right, internally with many subsidiaries, a lot of business coming in. Uh, Still, you chose to bootstrap,
Yes,
right? So, what went into that? And again, we were in a phase where venture capital was again gaining prominence.
right,
We've had Flipkart, really
right.
bringing VC capital from all parts of the world into India. So what went into your head? You and your co-founder. Why bootstrap? Why not raise capital?
So Siddharth, a couple of things we figured out. Number one, so as I said, when we started shouting on social media, making noise on social media, VCs reached out to us. We
Hmm.
did speak to a couple of them. I mean, it's a courtesy to at least respond and speak with them, right? What do they want? We figured out that all of them wanted a story of how this will become $100 million revenue business so that they can get a decent exit. Somewhere we did not believe that our business is going to become $100 million business at that time. That is one. Number two, we also saw that they want fast growth. It should not be that the business takes 30 years to become $100 million business, right? It should grow there fast. We knew that we are a sales-led company, we are not a marketing-led company, and so the growth cannot be very fast beyond a
Hmm.
certain limit, right? Swiggy's and Zomato's of the world can grow 4x in a year because they have their app in which they
Yeah.
will spend dollars on Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and suddenly they will get a lot of customers. Our business model was not like that. So keeping these two reasons in mind, we stayed away from venture capitalists. We could never convince ourselves that this could become a very fast growing $100 million business. See, definition of very fast varies for person to person.
Yeah.
Adani stock has grown certain amount. It is very fast for a lot of people, right? Some stocks grow 20% a year and people are very happy. But 20% a year in a startup is not that great. How can
Hmm.
you grow 200% in a year? So we had some of those constraints which we internally felt. And after my co-founder exit, I was very conscious about irreversible business relationships.
Hmm.
Relationships like an investors are irreversible. You can't, if you're unhappy with them, you can't say, "Ki, give me back my shares and take back the capital, tata, bye bye." You can't do that. So they are long-term relationships. So I was very wary of them. I was very cautious of them. Ki, now I don't want to get into such kind of business transactions. So that way, we stayed away from VCs, and customers helped us fund our business, remain bootstrap. We could still grow 100% year on year, which according to us was decent.
Well, 100% YOY is again a decent business from the point of view of a venture capital, right? Uh,
Yeah.
but I get your point about uh, investors trying to assume or have a roadmap towards that $1 billion valuation in five
Right.
7 years by the time their fund cycle gets over. Do you believe it's a function of again it's a separate topic, but do you believe it's a function of uh, a large fund versus a small fund? I mean, a $10 million run rate for a portfolio company for a micro VC fund for a 200 crore fund is a very attractive outcome, right?
Right.
Because a significant stake, a 20-30% stake in that can kind of return the entire fund for them. Is that a function of what you believe investors chasing extremely large outcomes only?
See, I think why they chase extremely large outcomes is that they don't know that which startup is going to make it. And so typically the structure is that out of 10 startups they invest in, seven will probably die out, two will give mediocre returns, and one has to be like a mega return, which covers up for all the rest of the nine as well. So that's why their intent is to always invest in that 10th one, which will give mega returns. And they look at every startup that when they evaluate any startup, the question they ask is this the 10th one? They
Hmm.
don't want to ask whether you are the eighth or ninth one, which can give average return, and definitely not among the first seven. So the question they ask is, will it give me mega returns, which will cover up for the fund or not? So we understood that early on. Like, I mean, we one philosophy we followed was listen to others and get their feedback. So listen to investors and get their feedback, right?
Hmm.
Whether to act on that feedback was our lookout, which we never acted.
Fair point. Fair point. So now I think let's we kind of jump into the last couple of years before you kind of got acquired. Uh, Again, by the time, what did the team look like? How did you start to grow your organization, build it from a 1-2% team, founder-led sales,
Right.
to actually setting up the base for a long-term organization rather than a startup?
Right. So because we were bootstrapped, we could never hire very expensive people who are experienced, IITs, IIMs, CAs, rank holders, blah, blah, blah. Right. So we built the team bottoms up, meaning
Hmm.
people, young people who joined us, college freshers, people. So we were also freshers when we started. So people similar to us, but who were hungry for growth and who were hungry to work in an exciting environment where they get ownership of work. Right. So we were lucky to hire some of our early members in that manner. And today, all of them are leading the verticals. Someone is heading sales, someone is heading delivery, someone is heading customer success, engineering. The intern who we hired in 2018, uh, he joined on 1st of August. He's our engineering head today, right? So that's the kind of team we have built bottoms up. Uh, we did not have any employee benefits whatsoever, right? We did not have insurance. Second and fourth Saturdays were off. Other Saturdays were working. No sort of laptops, swag, anything you can think of. We had nothing. Uh, but what we offered was a fantastic culture where people were given freedom, openness, and the most important thing was they could make mistakes and not be bashed about it. The bigger the mistake, the more they were recognized because they were trying to do something very interesting. So if you put a double space between two words in an email, you will get a bashing because that's a silly mistake. But if you quote 1 0 extra to a customer in the pricing, uh, because you are trying to figure out if 10x pricing could work and the customer went crazy, that's a
Hmm.
good mistake. We appreciate that because if that mistake works out, we know
Yeah,
that we
it's a
product is,
very large outcome. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a large outcome. So that kind of things we appreciate versus small silly mistakes we do not appreciate. Especially repeating such mistakes is definitely not acceptable. First time is fine, everything is fine. So that's the kind of culture we built. Young people, hungry people, who want to grow in the career and who want to make mistakes and experiment, who want to take ownership. So that's the structure. Uh, in 2021, we hired a lot of people externally. All the bets went wrong. Uh, be it someone senior in recruitment, someone senior in business development, someone senior in product management, someone senior in sales. every bet went wrong one by one. Matlab, literally, these are prior to our acquisition.
Hmm.
First, you can say 1st of January to end of July. End of July, we signed the term sheet. So whoever we hired, everyone went wrong. Uh, so after that, we became more cautious of external hiring. We are now learning it back again, but and after that, what we did was we started promoting people internally. We said
Hmm.
ki I want someone in business development role. So I asked my sales head that you tell me which person in your team can take up ownership of business development, and moved that person to business development, because hiring a salesperson, I know the playbook. I already have multiple salespeople, but business development person, unfortunately, I'm not able to hire, so I'll move them internally.
Hmm.
So so that was even better because people saw that as an opportunity. People saw that the person who joined 6 months back, who started doing well, is today heading a team of 5 people. So that gave a further positive signal within the company. And after Exotel acquired us, obviously, I learned a lot of hiring processes from Shivku, the founder of Exotel. They hire at a next level. I mean, their
Hmm.
hiring is top of the top. If they want to hire someone in marketing, they went ahead and hired the VP of UiPath, VP of marketing. So they hire at that level. They want someone in recruitment, hired the director of recruitment at Freshworks. So now I'm learning that how to hire top of the top people in the team while maintaining consistency in the existing team members. So yeah, I mean, it has been a, I mean, hiring is something which everybody will make mistake. In spite of howsoever experienced you are, you would have heard of Steve Jobs making mistake in hiring the chairman at PepsiCo. Uh, at that level, also, if mistakes happen, we all are bound to make mistakes. But what I learned is that some large percentage of leadership hiring should happen via internal promotions.
No, so it's very important that you say this because we see this in our portfolio companies as well. That a software company where with investors, they a person joined as customer support.
Right.
Um, over the next 3 or 4 years, she's moved on to different roles within product, within uh, operations. I think now she's heading. She's a COO of the company, right?
Wow.
At the same time, when they've tried to hire externally, whether it is sales, marketing, BD, technology, they've not really had that kind of conviction or the cultural fit, the kind of work that the output that they wanted. They've again, as you said, 2 or 3 of the hires externally have gone wrong, right? But almost everybody who started when the company was very very early days,
Yes.
they're now either COOs, CTOs, VP product, so on and so forth. So I think that's a very important learning for companies who are from a 0 to 1 stage, right? But now, as you now kind of shift gears from being a bootstrap company, small company, internal hiring, now have being under the umbrella of Exotel, learning the playbooks from the founders. What is different between 0 to 1 hiring and 1 to 10 hiring, according to you? What did you have to unlearn, basically?
Yeah. So I think 0 to 1 hiring is all about hiring builders. 1 to 100 hiring is all about hiring optimizers and specialists. Right. Now we don't need people who can build. We definitely need, but when we are hiring for a specific leadership role, we would prefer them to scale what has been built rather than build something new. Right. So now in terms of hiring approach, I'll tell you what has changed for me is, firstly, I and Harshita and I, both of us convinced ourselves that the phase of the company is changing now. So I was giving my team an example that suppose you have to go to Lonavala, you and your friend. You can build a plan at 1 o'clock in the night and be at Lonavala at 3 o'clock in the night, taking a Zoom car, renting an Uber, or anything like that. Right. If you are with your family, you have to think 5 times, because your mother and father are not as flexible as you. They can't come with you at 3 o'clock in the night.
Correct.
If you have 10 families on both sides, you need to make preparations 1 month ahead. You need to book a bus, you need to book a hotel, you need to plan meals. You can't let anyone take any choice that, okay, fine, let's stop at this restaurant, let's stop at this dhaba. It has to be very well planned upfront 1 month ago. Now, so I told them that we are switching gears from this, let's go to Lonavala at 1 o'clock in the night, to 10 families from both sides coming. There has to be planning done, which is to be done upfront, and the approaches which worked so far will not work anymore. We can't have like developing features in the product at 7 o'clock in the night and shipping them at 9 o'clock. Ideally, we would want to have that, but it is very difficult now, right? Because
Hmm.
the product development is now let's say it has to go through multiple layers of approval internally. Exotel does not interfere in any of our work. We are a wholly owned subsidiary, but internally also we have to go take it through information security clearance, quality assurance clearance, product clearance, and so on and so, like engineering QA, product QA, and so on and so forth. So so that is one mindset which we have mentally accepted, and we are now coaching our team members that
Hmm.
look, start hiring specialists rather than generalists. So internally now, when our sales team says, I'll give an example of sales team. When sales team hiring happens, we now look for salespeople who have already been there, done that in B2B SaaS space at least. If they are in conversational AI space, even better. But
Hmm.
if not, at least they should be B2B SaaS. My sales head was from Byju's, B2C product, right? So that we can't replicate now. If we hire someone from Byju's, they may be good, but they may take a lot of time to ramp up, to deal with seven stakeholders, to understand the proposal approach, to understand that there are no leads coming from marketing, to qualify a lead and stuff like that. All these things are new, and we don't have time to help them, teach them ramp up at this stage. So we hire people from that industry now. And within leadership, I'm trying to change the mindset that look, you guys also start. So like my sales head, I'm telling him consciously that you should not be the sales representative in any deal. Your team member should do that. Right. So now he has two people, BFSI and non-BFSI heads under him. Now I'm coaching those people that look, you guys should not be the salespeople in a deal. People within you should be the salespeople. So I'm coaching him to coach his team members. So that approach in terms of change of mindset, that look, whatever work you are doing now, you have to consciously delegate it to your team members now. You can't be that person, otherwise your time will become the bottleneck. So that is number one. Number two, for any new roles, let's say if I have to hire a head of partnerships, our first instinct is to hire someone internally. So we open up a job post and say, is anyone willing to take this internally? Because what I know is that all the team members are very their thought process, their mindset, and their values are very linked to the company already. So that part cannot go wrong. The only part that can go wrong is in terms of them taking more time to learn. So
Hmm.
matlab, the risk is much lower with an existing team member, because culturally they are all set. Their learnability, I know internally that what they can do, what they cannot do. I have their performance track record. It just becomes easier. External person we hired from another competitor. The person had spent 5 years there, and the person was overall 15 years experienced. Could not do anything for 6 months. Could not move the needle even by 0.1% over 6 months of time frame. And that was because of the cultural differences in the other company, right? They are a large company. The person is like a cog in the wheel. He's given responsibility, work on his table. And here in a company like ours, if we are creating a new function, you got to take ownership. You got to figure out what is to be done and how much the needle is to be moved, what is required to move that needle. So all of that, we know our team, which of our team member can do it. So we first give them an opportunity. If no one is willing, then we hire externally. So that is our approach. And even in hiring externally, we take the person through the interview process with existing team members, so
Hmm.
that all of them decide a cultural fit. Now, see, I think the VPs should work with each other more closely than working with the founder, is what I've realized. Their synchrony with each other is more important than their synchrony with the founder. If the marketing head does not like the sales head, or sales head does not like the marketing head, it's a bigger problem than me not
Yes.
liking, or because for me it's more like reviews. Every week I will show up and say, show me your numbers. So I mean, for me, it matters less that what is my perception of the person rather than the team members. So
So,
that's the
so,
change in hiring. Yeah.
so if I were to summarize, this is now you moved from you know, maybe ad hoc to more 30,000 feet view before doing anything, right? Because now you have proper organization,
Right.
you're creating processes. Second is now you're again trying to do more top down than bottom up.
Right.
And because it is top down, you're encouraging people to delegate more,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And but having, other things being equal, your first priority is internal hiring,
Right.
because people easiest to ramp up, quickest to understand, evaluate, because you've been there since like forever.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely.
And I want to touch upon your point on, see, there will be bad hires, there will be misfits at any point in time. People are human beings, it's going to happen. Everybody's different. But how do you internally what is the thought process on letting go of a bad hire quickly, not having them deeply entrenched in the organization, cutting your losses, and by the way, being very respectful and kind of uh, because at the end of the day, it's a company name that kind of gets tarnished, right?
Right.
So, what is your thought process in letting go of misfits quickly?
Sure. So see, a couple of things which we have done is now we have made hiring process more rigorous, right? Hired slow is what we believe in rather than hiring ad hoc very quickly. So one thing which I learned from Shivku, who's the founder of Exotel, is hire until you get the confidence, interview until you get the confidence that this person is a fantastic person with whom I'm going to work with.
Mhm.
Like, you should not see that they will, I mean, forget about them getting the work done or not. You should see them as an inspiring person. You should feel excited to get them onboarded. Don't hire until you get that conviction. So that is one. Secondly, he nails down the job description very, very well. If he has to hire, let's say, a VP of corporate development, I'm just giving an example. So he shared a JD with me. So there is a certain threshold which has been mentioned, like X million worth of fundraising you should have done. So
Hmm.
either you have done it or you have not done it. So there are 20 parameters like that. So interview only those people which meet all of these parameters, so that you know that at least these 20 things they have been there, done that. They just have to replicate. So the confidence goes up many folds. Plus, because they have been there, done that, you also, as I said, the first point holds true, that you also feel happy working with them, because you know that I have a problem of raising, let's say, $10 million. This person has done it. So when they will come, they will do it quickly. They will do it much faster. So that is one. And second, which we have learned is, which we have learned from Shivku, is many founders have this belief, at least I had that belief, that when I hire someone, it's their job to make me successful. Shivku told that you should think opposite. As a founder, how can you ensure the success of this person within the company? So
Correct.
that is a fundamental change in approach, because now I am more responsible rather than me being a boss, me being a
Hmm.
manager. And that has changed everything for me, which means the founder is essentially a coach and a mentor, which means it opens up a lot of things, that now I have to upskill myself first, I have to coach myself first, and I have to find out what my team members lack and coach them with their gaps and deficiencies. So that's a very good approach. It leads to loyalty of the team member. And whenever something goes wrong, so one immediate reaction I've seen is, if the person is not performing, you start recalling that what were the signals in the interview where they screwed up, which I could have filtered out early. But because you hire for trust, you can never go back to interview now. I mean, at least you will not feel that, okay, I made so and so mistake in interview hiring, because you hired for trust. You ensured that the person you hired, you have full belief in them. So the approach now in that sense is very different, that I spend a lot of time ensuring the success of team members, finding areas where they lack, which places they don't know the certain skill set. So how can I upskill them? If they don't know how to coach their team members, how can I help them do that? How can I share my learnings via my own story? That's why, if you saw, I started documenting a lot of things. It's
Yeah.
an archive not just for the world, it's an archive for my own team members to learn from my story, because I can't go and talk to 150 people which we have today. So that, I mean, that has been the change in my mindset from Exotel, after Exotel hiring.
Okay. So now, since we are on Exotel, I'd kind of like to touch upon Exotel's acquisition as well. And they say good companies are bought, not sold, right?
Right.
And you've shared anecdotes about how the conversations kind of opened. You were in touch with the founders before, but
Right.
conversations meaningfully opened up at a later date. What was your experience and what was the journey like?
So okay, so journey started long back in 2019. Yes, pre-COVID.
Hmm.
We had a session at IIT Bombay Incubation Center, which was this Sign Advisory Board meeting, and they had invited the startups which were incubated at Sign. We were a part of that meeting. So we met Mr. Abhay Pandey, who's the partner at A91 Partners, uh, and we met him in his Worli office. So they obviously invest at Series B, Series C stage, and neither was I interested in any kind of investment. But I thought it's good to stay in touch with a person who knows in future what kind of need there be for both the sides. And he was also from IIT Bombay Computer Science Department, same department. So I met him at their Worli office. He connected me with Kaushik, who was another of their partner, looking at SaaS investment, the space in which we were.
Mhm.
So Kaushik and I had a good informal chat, and I mean, my intent of meeting multiple people is that there may not be an immediate business value for both of us, but at least let's create a good impression, right? Who knows what can happen in the future? So
Correct.
that's what I did. I portrayed myself in the best possible manner I can, and we had a good discussion. So I don't know. You are a VC, you can suggest, but next year he would have snoozed his email, and he reached out again. So that was 2020 around September, uh, 1 year after I met him. So we had a casual chat that how's your business going? We met last year, right? So the interaction was quite good, and at that time our business was at its peak. This is pre post COVID. COVID had happened, and
Hmm.
after COVID we had a setback for a couple of months, but then the business took off like crazy. Chatbots were very much required because agents were operating from home,
Yeah.
so people wanted to automate that because they were busy fixing communication system for agents. Until then, they wanted some sort of automation. So we our business was growing very very well at that time. He connected us with Shivku. Kaushik liked the fact that our growth was good. He connected us with Shivku, and uh, Shivku and I had a casual chat about what is our goal, what are we doing. So the conversations did not start with acquisition. Initially, it was more like, can we enter into a partnership
Hmm.
where Exotel is taking our product to their customers, given their large customer base. What I didn't know at that time was A91 also was talking to Shivku for funding, for an investment. So they announced their Series A of 40 crores in December the same year.
Hmm.
And the conversation I'm talking about is in November, between me and Shivku. So nothing concrete happened at that time. We kept on chatting for a couple of months, from ideas as much as early stage as partnership and as late stage as an acquisition. Everything was discussed with Shivku investing money, Exotel investing money, all sort of combinations. So we had just ended the conversation with one of the competitors of Exotel at that time for an acquisition.
Hmm.
So it was not a nasty, it was not a good conversation. It was very nasty. They gave an offer which was like horrible, worst offer. The cash component was lesser than the cash we had in our bank at that time. So I completely got crazy and I told Shivku, look, boss, sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't want to talk further on this. I don't want to talk acquisition because somewhere I felt that people want to exploit young people like us. The commercial conversations that happened with the competitor of Exotel, we felt exploited. We were not exploited, fortunately, but the offer they gave, it seemed like, okay, these are kids, let's give them some offer. They will probably agree with a couple of crores and blah, blah, blah. In spite of knowing the fact that we were doing more than that in revenues and had more than that sitting in our bank in terms of profits. So that's where we backed off from Exotel conversation without it leading to a sizable stage. In So they did Series A in December 2020. In June, they did Series B, 45 crores. Again, A91 partners participated. So 6 months. So this is after second wave of COVID
Hmm.
last. So so what happened was a Twitter post was there in which Kaushik was tagged. Kaushik was mentioned, and the post said that Sequoia analysts who made it big. Kaushik is the guy from A91 Partners.
Hmm.
So I just sent that post to Kaushik and congratulated him. It was just a gesture. I do that all the time for every person. If someone has done something well, I try to congratulate.
Right.
So Kaushik said that, look, Aman, our conversation with Exotel could not happen the last time, but now they have raised 40 crores plus 45 crores funding. We are sitting with more cash. Why don't you initiate another conversation? So I said, fine, we can evaluate if you're saying so. And he asked us for what kind of offer we were looking for in terms of cash. So my thought was not to encash. My thought was to ensure that if we are getting acquired, we get the desired value.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, if I'm spending 1 hour with someone, helping them on a commercial basis, I don't want them to waste my time. I want them to value my time, and that's what the money for. 1,000, 2,000 rupees here and there will not change my life.
Correct.
But the fact that they are valuing me is more important. So same thing I explained it to Kaushik that, look, when you acquire us, there is a certain amount of risk I'm taking by share swapping. Right, my shares getting into Exotel shares.
Correct.
I want to reduce that risk because 4 years of effort has already gone into building this company with co-founder exit, acquiring these businesses, and blah blah blah, a bunch of stuff. That has to be valued. That has to be uh, ascribed some number basis the amount of effort. So he said, why don't you quote a certain figure? If you want cash, we'll evaluate. I quoted a figure and they agreed to it. On This was, I think, Thursday or Friday around the end of July, and Monday they gave us a term sheet. Shivku and Ishwar came on a call. Kaushik was there. They explained that this is your offer and this is the cash you asked for. We are happy to provide that cash, and the rest of it will be obviously Exotel stocks. So we were like, fine, this is quite good. I mean, whatever we wanted, they agreed without negotiating. They had negotiated in some payment terms and all, but that was okay. They agreed, given the fact that they respected us that much, we agreed that they are good quality people. And
Hmm.
in the last 6 months, because I was talking to Shivku and Kaushik, I got very good vibes. So many big companies also came to us for acquisition. Some giants like Gupshup, uh, many other companies. Right, I don't want to take names, but
Right.
the thought was that we will get acquired. So you remember my co-founder had exit, so I didn't want to
Yes.
get into irreversible relationships which are bad. This was one such thought for process for me that, look, this is an irreversible relationship which can go bad. But with Exotel founders, the DNA matched very well. So while they had raised funds now, for last 10 years, they were bootstrapped. They
Hmm.
raised fund back in 2011 when they
Yeah.
started from Bloom. For 10 years, they didn't raise funding. Being frugal, being in the SaaS space, valuing other people, respecting time, being polite with people, everything matched in that sense. So more than monetary reward, the founders were great. And on top of that, we saw huge synergies. They had 7,000 customers across 60 plus countries, and they had acquired Ame also, which is the contact center player. So, lot of synergies. I could see that selling our product to their customers and vice versa. So, we agreed to their offer. We signed a term sheet at, I think, 26 July midnight. And in November, the acquisition was announced.
So I want to touch upon your point on acquisitions, right? In the very early stage world, Series A, B, acquisitions are looked down upon, right?
Yes.
Two points. One is because acquisitions are, uh, you know, terms are very derogatory in a way, right? You just want to suck all the value out. And second is it's also a signal of, I mean, people take away the signal that, oh, boss, there is not a lot of growth available, so they got acquired, right?
Right.
But we we miss the point where an acquisition is a very good place for employees, for founders to generate a payday,
Right.
because 4 years of bootstrapping is, I know there is there's no money available to pay salaries, right?
Right.
There are no benefits, no salaries, nothing, and you're working all day without, and if you're not raised again, there is no value that you ascribe to your equity in it.
Right.
So that's a tangible payday, that's a tangible outcome that you generate.
Right.
And not to mention the second part of your point, that having the ability to be within a larger umbrella, which is
Right.
more established, again, opens doors, better customer connects, better hiring playbooks,
Right.
structures, again, PR, the massive PR that you can generate by all of that. And that's a very tangible value that you can ascribe to. It's not visible, but it's still tangible, right?
Right.
So, what are your thoughts on what are thoughts on that? What does it teach you post acquisition, right? About how you look at the market, how you look at. We spoke about hiring, right? But in terms of market, your own self, right? Now you are a founder of a company that got acquired. You have the validation now. I mean,
Right.
it's not really required, but it's you now. You have the validation that, boss, I've created something of value,
Right.
right? I I employ 50 people, 100 people. I work with these many customers. So what does that mean for you, Aman Goel, as a founder today? What has it taught you?
So, see, let me first talk personally and then professionally.
Fair.
Personally, it has been very helpful because like my father is going through some health issues, and I would have been fucked completely if I we were not acquired in terms of spending money. Like people of our parents' generation, they don't believe in insurance,
Of
so
course.
there is no health insurance that he carries, right? And given the fact that I have a certain payout, I can take better decisions. I can give a better treatment. That is one. Second is my parents have moved in with me in Mumbai, where we have purchased a house. Uh, and so I'm able to give them the best quality of life. So while I have all my life ahead, I'm the only son. I have two sisters which are married, but I'm the only son, and my parents are roughly 60 years old. My dad is
Hmm.
63. So they have a limited amount of life ahead. I may have another, hopefully 50, 70 years, whatever. So I'm very close to my parents, and I wanted to make sure that they get the best life which I can provide to them. So we are staying in a good quality locality in Powai in Hiranandani Gardens, which is a decent area. So what is very fulfilling for me is to see my parents enjoying here, because leaving hometown after 35 years is a difficult thing. But they are well settled there, well established there, and quite happy. So I think that has been the see because. People like me, I am okay with living in a IIT hostel room. It doesn't matter, yeah. But parents cannot. So that has been the biggest accomplishment for me personally through this acquisition. On a professional front, I'm learning a lot of things. So number one is how to work uh, in a harmony with people who are 20 years senior to you, right? Requesting them politely rather than being aggressive, because you need to respect, or I need to respect the fact that they are married, they have kids, and they have other responsibilities in personal life, which I don't have, which at least during acquisition, I was not married. I didn't have. So, which means I could work at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the night, but someone who has a kid, they have to send to school the next day, they cannot. At the same time, meeting the deadline, at the same time, being respectful of them, right? At the same time, being polite. So a lot of such things I'm learning, because what we did after acquisition was all the non-core functions, which are like finance, administration, payroll, that we delegated to the Exotel team. They have dedicated finance function, HR function, compliance function, CFO vertical, and so on and so forth. So we gave it to them, and they are doing it obviously much better than us. So making sure that they are cognizant of our timelines, because see, our customers, our employees look at us as a one of the USP is the fast moving nature
Hmm.
of the business. Enterprises work with us because they know TCS will take 18 months, which these guys will do in 18 days. So we should not lose our core value proposition, and that is one thing which I have been learning a lot. Secondly, as I told about hiring, which I learned personally from Shipku. Thirdly, around structuring and thinking 1 year ahead. So previously, my thought process was this quarter, this month, right? What do we do? Now I'm starting to think, because something which has to be delivered as a revenue after 1 year has to be sold 1 quarter ahead, has to be sourced 1 quarter further ahead, and has to be built 1 quarter further ahead. Which means my thought process is, what do I build today, which will get as a revenue after 1 year, after 12 months. So that approach and planning is what I'm learning from Exotel team. They are a large organization, I think 1100, 1200 employees, something like that, in that range. So the planning becomes more rigorous. It has to be done upfront. And secondly, so the one is time planning, and second is the bifurcation of the growth and the numbers which you will hit. How much sales should do, how much customer success should do, how much delivery team should do, right? And the numbers, like sales will get leads from business development team. So accordingly, what number should business development team do? So backtracking those numbers, because for BD team, the target is not revenue, but for the sales team, the target is revenue, which means there has to be a link between X number of leads to Y amount of revenue, and so on and so forth. So building those metrics and delegating those metrics to the team member, and teaching my team members how to delegate those metrics further below, cascading them like the OKR mechanism, you can say. So all that, all of that is something which I think I have become much better at, what compared to what we were at Cogno.
Hmm.
In Cogno, in the last quarter of FY21, which is January, February, March last year, was the first time we actually thought about targets and numbers. Prior to that, it was on a best effort basis. Let's do whatever best we can, and
Correct.
that is not sustainable, because everybody will not do their best if they don't have some guide rails or some yardstick, you can say. So that is one thing. One more thing which I have learned from Exotel. From Shivku personally, which I have learned, one thing is being a little patient. So both of us are very different personalities. He's very calm, very patient. I am extremely aggressive, extremely short tempered. So Shivku says that Aman wants everything and Aman wants it now. Uh, I have learned it that now it is not sustainable approach. Otherwise, I will get burnt out.
Hmm.
So if there is a customer churn threat, while I'm concerned about it, I don't sweat about it. I don't burn my head about it. Previously, I used to go crazy that why is this customer going? What happened? And who's the employee who's done wrong with him? Let's fire that person and all those things. Now I'm a little calm that where did we go wrong? How can I fix it? So I start looking at solution more. I mean, it has so a lot of the professional skills I learn also start reflecting in my personal life. So when I become a little more calm in my personal life, I've started to drive a little slow, thinking that no, I should not hit someone. Previously I used to drive a little fast, right? So a lot of such things I'm learning from Shivku to. So see, the difference between the founder of 0 to 1 and 1 to 100 is, founder of 0 to 1 has to survive. 1 to 100 founder survival is sorted, they have to sustain. There's a big difference. In survival, you have to fight for everything. So let's say I lately started learning to swim. In the early days of swimming, you just have to figure out how to move hands and legs to stay afloat. But once you have learned that, you need to find ways to consistently swim in one direction, so
Correct.
that you don't lose the track, you don't swim in circles, you go in a straight line, so that you are progressing. So I am trying to learn that sustainability beats a lot of fighting and aggression once you are in a growth stage. So the mental shift that is going on from this to sustainability is quite exciting for me. I'm learning a lot. Uh, Previously, like I used to hammer people, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Now, being patient with them, understanding that where are they facing any challenge? Are there process gaps in the company which we can improve? Because what I know is that if this person is facing a challenge, there will be 10 others who will be facing the same challenge. So I can't fix 10 challenges, which means I have to find the problem fundamentally. So the thought process has changed a lot, and I think it will help me a lot in the journey ahead.
So this is a very beautiful example, and also fits very well into your first statement when we started speaking. Is that you're looking for two things? right? When you were in the US, one is to be with family, and second was purpose. Now life is kind of full circle for you. You are with family. I mean, I
Yes.
can middle class Indian boys, we understand how important it is to kind of live with family. It's not very easy to stay away. And second is, this is now a very purposeful place, right? You've moved from how do I do this to how do I make people with me, alongside me, successful? How do I learn the best things that can empower people who work with me, right? Uh, and that also means now in the last year or so, you've started investing yourself,
Right.
angel investing in startups. So, other than the nomenclature that we use for investors, let me know how can I help you, right? But we don't really do it anyway. How do you kind of think about working with the founders that you work with or invest in, because you've lived through that journey, right?
Right.
You probably understand it better than us, that what needs fixing today, what is not really important, and when all these TAM calculations and 5-year projections mean jack what.
So, see, my startup investments have been a little weird in the sense that I have not interacted with any of the founders where I have invested. They were referrals through a friend of mine,
Mm-hmm.
almost all of them. So, one of my friends who was an angel investor in our company at Cogno, I'm in a small shareholder. Uh, he does active angel investing in a lot of startups. So he calls me and says, "Look, Aman, I've invested in this startup. This is doing very well. Why don't you invest a small amount?" So that's about it for me. I don't bother looking at what they are doing, what is the presentation. I have not started doing active angel investing. These are all 4 or 5 passive investments. Or let's say some good syndicate where some VC fund which I respect, they invited me. So there are a few such Better Capital, uh, which is Web of Dom Kudwar, and Bharat Founders Fund. So a couple of syndicates I'm a part of, and if I find something interesting, I just invest. Done with the investments for this year, but will again start in somewhere around April next year, in the
Okay.
next financial year.
Okay.
Uh, but having said that, I do mentor a few startups without investing. So I came from IIT Bombay Entrepreneurship Department. So I take lectures there.
Oh, wow.
Not on a regular basis, but as and when invited. And most lectures are around sharing my journey rather than any entrepreneurial content. And secondly, they have mapped a few startups for me to mentor. So again, no equity, no cash, nothing. These are just this is someone helped me, so I'm just trying to pass on where I without any expectation in return. The expectation will be that they become successful. That's the best return I can get. I don't want any financial upside. So I'm helping, and these are all third year, fourth year college students like me, like who I was 5 years back, trying
Correct.
to do something, don't know what is product, what is marketing, what is. So the problem with engineers is that because they can build everything, they start building everything, and
Hmm.
that's not how entrepreneurship works. You have to focus on one thing and execute it better than others. So guiding people through guiding students through some of these things, sharing my knowledge through content like yours, right? So that's how, or writing more on Twitter. So that's how I have been trying to give back to entrepreneur community. From an investment perspective, I'm not an active angel investor, but I do plan it next year.
So life is completely in a full circle for you, right? You are where you started, but you are at the other side of the table now,
Right.
just passing on the good stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Fantastic.
absolutely.
It's really good to really inspiring to hear your story, and I'm sure maybe once we kind of put it out, it will help a lot of people. Going through some of the questions that we went through. Any parting thoughts that you have?
No, I think thanks a lot for this conversation. The I hope that this benefits other entrepreneurs, other students, possibly young entrepreneurs, is what I see, because many people gave me the advice that why don't you take up a job and start later. If there is anyone who my story can help, would be that fourth year college student who is thinking of taking a job versus starting up. If more such people go for entrepreneurship, I think that is what I will call as the success of this conversation between us.
Fantastic.
So I hope that happens, and thank you so much for inviting.
Super. Thank you very much, Aman. Hope to keep in touch.
Absolutely.
All
Thanks for your
right.
time.
Thanks. Bye bye.